So I just wanted to say a few words about what's been happening the past couple days. I just need to preface this with saying that I am not a Trump supporter. I don't support his policies. For the most part, I don't support his policies. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I think of myself as post-partisan. I was a Democrat my whole life, and then after the 2016 primary, I switched my party affiliation to Green Party, became somewhat active in that party, supported Jill Stein in the general election, and then I've sort of evolved from there. What I want to talk about is I want to speak out against the mass hysteria that is happening on the left and in the media, the mainstream corporate media, against Donald Trump. And, I'm the last person who would say anything supportive of Donald Trump, but what we're witnessing right now is just a complete Russophobic, pro-war propaganda hysteria right now. And, I've had some conversations with people over the past couple days, and, they're just saying, like, matter-of-factly, like, oh my God, can you believe, like, he's actually supporting Vladimir Putin, and they attacked our democracy, and and they're saying things like, this is disgraceful what he did to our country, and he's propping up a dictator, and after what they did to our election. And I'm sitting here and I'm just thinking, like, the complete propaganda campaign has actually worked. I mean, it's so ridiculously obviously stupid and transparent, and it's so obviously contrived by the Democrats, Hillary Clinton, people like Robbie Mook and John Podesta, and all of these people concocted this ridiculous story to come up as an excuse for Hillary Clinton losing to she was the only person on the planet who could have lost to Donald Trump. So they came up with this ridiculous notion that Russia hacked our election, and people don't even know what that means, but they just think that Russia somehow swung the election in Trump's favor. And I don't want to rehash like the whole entire story, but basically, in a nutshell, here's what it is. So in their minds, they have constructed a story that goes like this. Russia hacked into John Podesta's computer. Okay, that's the story. And then they also hacked into the DNC server, and they supposedly gave the emails that they stole to Julian Assange of WikiLeaks, and then WikiLeaks published the emails, and it was at a very clever timing to induce maximum impact on the Hillary Clinton campaign, to inflict maximum damage. And in fact, what those emails were proof of what everyone feared about Hillary Clinton. What do I mean by that? It means that there were emails discovered where she was giving speeches to Goldman Sachs, which, she fought tooth and nail when Bernie Sanders told her that, and a lot of other people said that she should release the transcripts of the speeches that she gave to Goldman Sachs and to other Wall Street banks. Okay, well, the contents of that speech were as follows. I have a public face and a private face, which basically proved to everyone in the country that doubted or mistrusted Secretary Clinton, that confirmed that she lies to us and then she tells us nice things to get votes, to get political access, to get some kind of political reward, like a political office or a position in Obama's cabinet. So she tells us nice things that her think tanks and all of all of her PACs and all of her like research, campaign research, opposition research groups, and all of her operatives have scientifically proven that these are the things that they want you to say, Hillary. Okay, that's what they want you to say. But then Hillary admitted in her speeches that I just tell people those things for political expediency. But don't worry, Goldman Sachs, I'm here for you. I will give you, I'm telling you the truth because I'm definitely going to give you what you need and want. So that was one thing that came out. The other thing that came out was, the quote was, instruct our friends in the media to prop up fringe right-wing candidates such as Donald Trump, Ben Carson, and some others, so that basically we will look so good compared to these radical right-wing fringe, like terrible maniacs, that people will be forced to vote for me if they're faced with the choice of me or between me and Donald Trump. Okay, so those are just, just giving you some background on the contents of the emails. So the contents of the emails were very, very damaging and damning. And basically what the Democrats did is they made it all about the messenger instead of the message. So for 2 years, we've heard this story about Russia somehow hacked our election and Trump somehow colluded with Russia, even though, Trump is not under investigation. They're investigating something imaginary that didn't even happen, and there's no law that they can't name a law that is said to have been broken or anything that Trump is said to have committed or in like violated some law. So first it was like Putin owns Trump, and they have the Steele dossier that was like completely concocted, and the Hillary Clinton campaign colluded with a British former intelligence operative to go to Moscow and to try to dig up dirt, and basically they paid them like a whole bunch of money to just tell them any kind of dirt that they wanted to hear. And so all of that was completely concocted. It's all a complete lie. It's been debunked many, many times. So where am I going with this? So they basically said that, oh, Putin owns Trump, and then they said, they moved the goalpost and they said, well, he colluded with Russia. Okay, well, what does that mean? Nobody even knows what that means. Colluded to do what? And some people actually believe that Russia hacked into our election machines, which nobody has even proven that. Nobody has proven anything. There's very, very solid intimation from WikiLeaks and from several other people that the DNC information propagation was an information. It was a leak and not a hack. And the groups like the Veterans Intelligence Professionals for Sanity, consisting of Bill Binney and Ray McGovern, they did their own forensic investigation, and they forensically proved that it would have been impossible for a transfer speed of what took place on that night, for them to transmit over the internet, over the Atlantic Ocean, over to Russia or to some other former Eastern Bloc country, to give them information, and then to have that some Russian give the information to Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. Come on, this has been thoroughly debunked like a million times. But the mainstream Mockingbird media, what they've done is they've just used the mantra of the propaganda minister Goebbels in Hitler's regime, just repeat a lie often enough and it will become true. And basically, what I'm seeing is that everybody has bought this, not everybody, but like mass populations of people, like both in the United States and around the world, have bought this narrative, this completely concocted narrative that Russia hacked our election. People like John McCain and John Brennan and James Clapper, I mean, some of the biggest liars and traitors on the face of the planet. I mean, the people who lied us into an illegal war in Iraq, like Robert Mueller, rounded up Muslim men after 9/11 without them being guilty of anything. John McCain regularly has funded and supported terrorists in Syria to overthrow the government there, overthrowing Libya. People like James Clapper, known liars. I mean, these are people from the intelligence community. They are paid to lie. They're professional liars. They've been caught lying to Congress. James Clapper, John Brennan, James Comey, they're all total liars and traitors in my view. People on the street, like when I talk to people just in my everyday life, they're saying, oh my God, I can't believe what Trump did. I can't believe what he did to America. He went and met with Putin, and it was just a love fest, and they obviously have something on him. Yesterday I was listening to KPFA radio, Pacifica Radio, Hard Knock Radio is the program, and right before that, I have to suffer through the AP News headlines that they read every day, and it's basically like every sentence, like every single AP Newswire headline segment starts off with President Donald Trump did blah 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 blah. And Nancy Pelosi, there was a quote from her, and she was saying, that this is an absolute disgrace of him meeting with Putin, and him doubting the intelligence committee, the intelligence community when it comes to the question of 2016 election interference. And we have people, even FBI Director Christopher Wray, I'm just reading an article in The Hill right now that says, FBI director says Russian influence efforts are, quote, very active. And then let me just read a little bit from another article. This is from Consortium News. If you don't subscribe or follow Consortium News, please follow that publication. Excellent publication. The late Robert Perry founded that publication with his son, Sam Perry, and it's absolutely brilliant. The article that I'm looking at is by the editor, Joe Loria, and it's called U.S. Media is Losing Its Mind Over Trump-Putin Summit. And we have people like Anderson Cooper of CNN. CNN is like the worst purveyor of pro-war, deep state, intelligence-backed, like basically CIA news. Anderson Cooper is an actual CIA asset. He was trained by the CIA when he was in college. He has like absolutely no journalistic training. He is saying things like, it's embarrassing. This is, let me see here. There are only exactly two possible explanations for the shameful performance the world witnessed on Monday from a serving American president. Either Donald Trump is a flat-out agent of Russian interests, maybe witting, maybe unwitting, from fear of blackmail and hope of future deals, out of manly respect for Vladimir Putin, out of gratitude for Russia's help during the election, out of pathetic inability to see beyond his 306 electoral votes. Whatever the exact mixture of motives might be, it doesn't really matter. or he is so profoundly ignorant, insecure, and narcissistic that he did not realize that at every step he was advancing the line that Putin hoped he would advance, and the line that the American intelligence, defense, and law enforcement agencies most dreaded. Conscious tool, useful idiot. Those are the choices, though both are possibly true, so that the main question is the proportions. Never before have I seen an American president consistently, repeatedly, publicly, and shockingly advance the interests of another country over those of his own government and people. And so that was a quote. It looks like that was from James Fallows from an article in The Atlantic. And then we've just had people like John McCain just outright say, like, he's a traitor. And okay, here's the bottom line. So President Trump just today, or in the past couple days, stated the Democrats would rather see us go to war with a nuclear-armed nation than to have us get along. And so basically, what we're seeing is a complete meltdown by the establishment media and by the deep state operatives that were fully invested in a Hillary Clinton victory in the 2016 election. Now, we would have already been in World War III with Russia by the end of her first week in the Oval Office. So let me just make that very, very clear. And President Trump made some very diplomatic, very positive comments during the news conference with Vladimir Putin, explaining that, we really should work together, and we should work together to avert nuclear proliferation, and he said some other things that were really indicative of a positive desire to establish better relations with Russia. Now, what I'm hearing from people is it's just completely backwards. It's like, he is a traitor because we should be in a nuclear war with Russia. That is basically what they're saying. So they're saying we're mad at Trump because he wants to improve relations with a nuclear-armed nation that we have accused of attacking our democracy and basically committing an act of terrorism against us. And there hasn't been one single shred of evidence presented to back up this ridiculous Russia collusion or Russia hacking or attack on our democracy narrative. Not one shred of evidence. And the indictment that came out last week, people say, oh, that's proof. No, indictments are not proof. Indictments are not proof of guilt. They're simply accusations. They're accusations that are formalized in a court filing, in formal charges being filed after convening a grand jury and convincing them that there's enough evidence to warrant an indictment. Okay, so that's not proof. Okay, so I'm not, a Russian Putin puppet or a Russian bot or anything like that. And I don't even support Donald Trump in his policies, most of his policies. I support a lot of things on the left, but then when it comes to this wholesale attempt at a coup against a democratically elected president, I find a lot of common ground with people on the right. And so, on Twitter, I do follow a lot of Trump supporters and a lot of people on the right because they're the only ones who seem to see through the bullshit narrative that the Democrats have been parroting for the past 2 years now. And so our relations with Russia have never been worse. They were never even this bad in the Cold War. And one journalist, Caitlin Johnston, tweeted out like in the past couple days that the mass hysteria that has happened over the Trump Putin summit is akin to if people during the Cuban Missile Crisis would have accused Kennedy of being a Khrushchev puppet. Like, how dare you call up Khrushchev, Nikita Khrushchev on the phone and, avert this Cuban, avert like a nuclear disaster with an arch enemy of the Soviet Union. That would be like what's happening now. So what's happening now is the Democrats want war with Russia because the Democrats are basically in bed with all of the deep state operatives, all of the intelligence community, and all of the war profiteers, the military industrial complex, big pharma, big ag, like all these defense contractors, they all backed Hillary Clinton. And there's a massive buildup of NATO troops right on Russia's border, okay, in Eastern Europe. The Democrats and the left and a lot of people also in the Republican Party want us to actively pursue worse relations with Russia. Okay? Russia has a military, they spend like, $50 billion a year on their military, and they pose no threat to us. Well, we spend $800 billion. We've got their country completely surrounded. We're fighting proxy wars against Russia in theaters such as Syria. These people are actually completely delusional. They want us to get into a conflict with a nuclear armed nation. So basically what they're saying is you're a traitor because you don't want to cause a nuclear war. So what Trump did was he took a step in the direction of diplomacy and improving relations with Russia. There's no reason why we shouldn't have a fabulous relationship with Russia. They're capitalists just like we are. They're no longer communists. So they don't cause us any threat as far as their ideology. They're capitalists just like we are. They have an open economy. They trade with the entire world. And as far as their leader, like I'll leave that for another discussion. But the idea that we should trust our intelligence community when their entire history is nothing but lies. They lied about, they've staged coups, they've staged false fake revolutions in lots of countries and had overthrown many other countries' leaders. They run around the country assassinating people. We have our drone assassination program where we kill like 90% of the people that we kill by drones are innocent civilians, and we call that collateral damage. And these people have, like I said, overthrown governments. They've melted down economies of entire countries like Venezuela and then accused them of doing bad things to their people, even though it was our policies and our sanctions that caused the economic turmoil that led to unrest in several countries. So they've meddled in 80 other elections throughout the world over the past several decades. Plus, they lie to Congress all the time, and they're caught on tape, and they're called out on it, and nothing ever happens to them. So what is my point? So the idea that it is treasonous to say something questioning or doubting of our intelligence community when they all they have is a history of lying in order to get us into illegal wars of aggression that kill millions of innocent people. And we do it for profit. We do it so that our military contractors like Boeing and Raytheon and Northrop Gunnup, I forget what the name of it is. You get the idea. so that all of these people can make billions and billions and billions of dollars off of like all the blank checks that our government writes to them to build bombs and so we can go kill people all over the world. We're bombing 8 countries right now. I don't know if you know that, but it's definitely a fact. The idea that we should trust our intelligence, our proven professional liars, and that we should call someone a traitor, and that we should call another country an arch enemy, and to use phrases like "this is an act of war," "this is an act of war." Again, there's been not one shred of evidence to suggest or prove that Russia did anything. Didn't hack the DNC server. The DNC never allowed the FBI to examine their server. That's pretty strange in and of itself. That would be like if you had your house broken into and robbed, but then told the police, no, I don't want you to investigate. No, the crime unit can't come in here, but I'm going to hire a private company, and they're going to do an forensic investigation, and everyone else will just have to rely on what that company says, even if the company isn't reputable and has made other judgments or statements that have been completely disproven in the past. So, we shouldn't use words like traitor, because the treason in the Constitution apparently is a crime punishable by death. So basically what these people are saying, and also some of these people are actually calling for a military overthrow of President Trump's administration. So that's the complete lunatic asylum statements that are being made are, that the military should intervene and do something about our treasonous president. We shouldn't go to Russia and even talk to the leader of that country, even in the height of the Cold War, and with almost every country in the world that has been our adversary, we have diplomatic relations. So that's just ridiculous to say that we shouldn't even be talking to our supposed adversaries. This was a good thing to have a summit, and if President Donald Trump wants to establish better relations with Russia and better relationship with North Korea to try to de-escalate the situation and to try to avert nuclear annihilation of the entire human race on the planet and to destroy the entire planet, if he does something to avert a nuclear disaster, then I support him. Okay? I don't support his immigration policies. I don't support lots of other things that he does. But if he wants to try to avert the destruction of human civilization and the planet, I'm all for that. I'm not gonna sit here and say we should ramp up tensions with Russia so that there's a bigger chance of a nuclear confrontation, which all the scientists have made it very clear. If there's any kind of nuclear confrontation, that's the end of humanity. That's basically the end of the world as anyone knows it. All life on the planet will be wiped out. So that's what I wanted to say. I heard on KPFA radio today, again on the AP Newswires, that they're actually going to be holding candlelight vigils in several cities across the country to protest President Trump's summit. Just the mere fact that he went to Russia to have this summit. They're going to be holding a candlelight vigil. It's like, I'm going to go out there and hold a candle and say, like, I'm so sad that we're not going to have a nuclear war. I'm so sad that the human race and the planet might survive because we're not going to have a nuclear war with Russia. So that's the level of delusion that we're dealing with. I know that this went on a little bit long, but hopefully you have found something useful about it. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. This is really kind of crazy. I've always been on the left, and now I just see that the left-right paradigm and the Republican Democrat, like this ideology versus that ideology, it's just designed to keep us divided and to keep us bickering among ourselves, to distract us from what the real criminals are doing, and they want us to be distracted so that they can continue to take away our rights, consolidate wealth and power, erode national sovereignty in favor of corporations that want to do nothing but enslave poor desperate people to work for their corporations, and poison the air, poison the land, poison the water, poison all of our food. That's the stuff that we should be focused on. And by the way, I live in San Francisco where we have 8,000 homeless people. So you tell me, why don't we go have a candlelight vigil for the 8,000 homeless people who are living on the streets with absolutely no hope? That's a story for another day, but why don't we focus on something that actually matters, like actually helping people who are desperate and in need? Because all we're getting right now, we have a new mayor in San Francisco, London Breed, and she's just going to be in the pocket of the corporations, just like all of our other sock puppet politicians and mayors have been in San Francisco for decades. Nothing is ever going to happen with the homeless problem. All they do is they come in and they want to like terrorize the homeless people by using the police and just move them around, and they don't want to do anything to actually help them, like maybe build housing and get them off the streets, get them into drug and alcohol, substance abuse treatment, get them some mental health treatment, things like that. So I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but you get the idea. There's not going to be any victory in left-right politics. We just need to come together and be a human family and see past this partisan divide. Because I can see past it when I look at people on the right who are actually calling out some BS from the other side. So hopefully you'll join me and let me know what you think, and thank you so much for listening.